What would you do if you were about to face an enemy that outnumbered you 33 to 1? Cardinal Pierre knew exactly what to do, and it changed the outcome of an entire war. Cardinal Pierre's titular church was St. Mary-beyond-the-Tiber, in Rome. If you're not familiar with how the church worked in medieval times, a titular church was basically a cardinal's home base in Rome, his official church that gave him his cardinal title. But Cardinal Pierre wasn't known for his church building. He was known for something far more powerful. He was a great friend of St. Dominic. These two men spent time together, prayed together, talked about their faith. And from St. Dominic, Cardinal Pierre learned to have a great devotion to the Holy Rosary. This wasn't just casual interest. This became his passion, his mission, his life's work. Cardinal Pierre grew to love the Rosary so much that he never ceased singing its praises. Imagine that a high-ranking church official, a prince of the church with all kinds of responsibilities and duties, and his number one priority was telling everyone about the Rosary. He encouraged everyone he met to embrace it. Not just priests and religious, everyone. Nobles, merchants, soldiers, servants, anyone who would listen. Then came the assignment that would test everything he believed about the Rosary's power. The Pope sent Cardinal Pierre as a legate to the Holy Land. Now being sent as a papal legate was a huge responsibility. You were essentially the Pope's personal representative, carrying his authority to handle critical situations. And the situation in the Holy Land was about as critical as it gets. Christians were fighting against the Saracens' Muslim forces that vastly outnumbered them. This was during the Crusades, a complex period of history where Christian and Muslim armies battled for control of the Holy Land. The Christian forces were struggling. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and running out of hope. Cardinal Pierre arrived and immediately saw what the Christian army needed. Not more soldiers, not better weapons, not advanced military strategy. They needed the Rosary. So Cardinal Pierre did what he always did. He started convincing people. But this time he wasn't talking to monks in monasteries or nobles in palaces. He was talking to an entire army. Soldiers facing death. Warriors preparing for battle. Men who had every reason to be skeptical about whether a prayer could save them from swords and arrows. But Cardinal Pierre was so successful, so passionate, so convincing in explaining the power of the Rosary that something miraculous happened. The entire Christian army started saying it. Hardened soldiers, battle-scarred veterans, men who maybe hadn't prayed seriously in years. All of them began praying the Rosary. And they didn't just pray it casually or half-heartedly. Blessed Alan, who recorded this story, says they stormed heaven for help. That's a powerful phrase. They stormed heaven. They prayed with intensity, with desperation, with absolute faith that heaven would respond. They knew what they were facing. Intelligence reports had come in. The enemy army numbered 100,000 men. The Christian force? 3,000. Let that sink in. 100,000 against 3,000. That's not just being outnumbered, that's facing certain annihilation. By every military calculation, the Christians were about to be wiped out. But they had prayed the Rosary. They had stormed heaven. They had put themselves under the protection of Our Lady, and when the battle came, something impossible happened. Those 3,000 Christians triumphed over an enemy of 100,000. Complete victory, against odds of 33 to 1. This wasn't surviving. This wasn't holding them off until reinforcements arrived. This was total triumph. The massive Saracen army was defeated by a force that should have been crushed within the first hour of fighting. How do you explain this? Military historians struggle with it. Tacticians analyze it and can't find natural explanations. The terrain wasn't that advantageous. The Christians didn't have superior weapons. They didn't use some brilliant new strategy. The only difference was prayer. The only variable that changed was that an entire army prayed the Rosary before battle. Cardinal Pierre had convinced them of the Rosary's power, and heaven demonstrated that power in the most dramatic way possible by giving them victory that defied all logic. Think about Cardinal Pierre's role in this. He could have arrived in the Holy Land and done what most church officials would do: bless the troops, say some prayers, maybe give a motivational speech, and then stay safely behind the lines while the soldiers fought. Instead, he armed them with the most powerful weapon available. Not swords, not strategies, the Rosary. And it worked. 3,000 men defeated 100,000 because Cardinal Pierre had learned from St. Dominic about the power of this simple prayer and had the courage to stake everything on it. So what does this mean for us today? First, that the Rosary isn't just for peaceful times or personal devotions. It's a weapon for impossible situations. When you face overwhelming odds, whether in spiritual warfare, personal struggles, financial crises, health battles, or any other challenge, the Rosary has power to change outcomes. Second, one person's conviction can change everything. Cardinal Pierre's passion for the Rosary didn't just affect him personally. It armed an entire army, it saved thousands of lives. It changed the course of history. Your devotion to the Rosary might seem small or insignificant, but you never know how your example and encouragement might inspire others. Third, when we storm heaven, with the Rosary, when we pray it with intensity and faith rather than just going through the motions, heaven responds. The Christian army didn't just say a quick Rosary and move on. They stormed heaven. They prayed with everything they had. And that kind of prayer gets results. And finally, friendship with holy people matters. Cardinal Pierre's friendship with Saint Dominic changed his life and eventually saved an army. When you surround yourself with people of deep faith, when you learn from those who are further along in their spiritual journey, their devotion becomes yours. Their passion ignites yours, so pick up your Rosary. Learn from those who know its power. Encourage others. And when you face your own impossible battles, remember that the same prayer that helped 3,000 defeat 100,000 is available to you today. Storm heaven, pray with faith, and watch what Our Lady can do.